Recording in progress.
Everyone, it is 5:31 p.m. and I call to order the special closed session of the City of Emeryville. This is being convened at 1333 Park Avenue, Emeryville, California. And roll call, please.
Councilmember Mora,
Here.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Here.
Councilmember Welch is absent, Vice Mayor Solomon, and Mayor Carr.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Any ex parte communications? No?
Oh,
Yes. Councilmember Pryforce, do you have ex parte communications report?
yes, I met with one of the developers for EAH. I met with them yesterday for like a tour of one of the properties.
Is this on closed session item number 5.1.2?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Thank you. And with that, we can go and move to the closed session room. Are there any public comment? There are no members of the public in the room. Did you have a comment for this?
Just to clarify, it was for 5.1.1 and 5.1.2.
Thank you. All right, we have no public comment and we can convene in the closed session room for the closed session items.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
City Attorney, please report out of the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Carr. There was no reportable action taken in closed session tonight.
It is now 6:42 p.m. We are adjourning out of the closed session. It's 6:42 p.m. I call to order the study session. Please roll call.
Councilmember Mora,
Present.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Here.
Councilmember Welch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Solomon, and Mayor Carr.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now moving on to the study session, session item 3.1. The study session is about SB 707, amendments to the Brown Act. Is there a presentation?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be doing the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor and Council, I am April Foran, your city clerk. I'll be making a presentation this evening on the amendments to the Brown Act under SB 707. SB 707 was a major amendment to the Brown Act. It restructures and expands the statutory framework governing public access to and remote participation in local government meetings. It also creates several new subcategories of legislative bodies and imposes greater public access requirements on those bodies, makes amendments to conform the Brown Act to the American with Disabilities Act, and adds various other requirements such as verbal salary disclosure on executive and department head compensation. As a majority of the amendments are operational and prescriptive in the legislation, tonight I'm just going to give you a high-level overview. But of course, I'm available to answer questions on anything you have. SB 707 consolidates alternative teleconferencing procedures that previously were under emergency and just cause rules. These were introduced, if you'll remember, under AB 2449 post-COVID. The additional just cause exemptions were added, allowing a member of a legislative body to attend a meeting remotely due to an immunocompromised family member, a physical or family member medical emergency, or military service. Members are still required to use both audio and video technology to participate remotely, and the minutes of the meeting must specify the provision of the just cause exception that the member used. As the City Council meets 2 times per month, members are limited to using the just cause exception 5 meetings per year. SB 707 also permits a legislative body to conduct a teleconference meeting during a proclaimed local emergency. This only used to be during a state emergency. The City Council has to determine by majority of vote that meeting in person would present eminent risks to the health and safety of attendees, and the findings have to be made every 45 days during the state of emergency. SB 707 also allows members, both City Council and all advisory bodies, to participate remotely as a reasonable accommodation for a disability under the ADA, and participation by that member with a disability counts towards meeting quorum. Members who wish to request a disability accommodation under the ADA must contact the city clerk. The city clerk will work with the advisory body secretary to ensure a reliable remote option is available at the meeting location and advise them that the member will be participating remotely. SB 707 defines an eligible legislative body to include the following: a city council of a city with a population of 30,000 or more, or a city council of a city located within a county with a population of 600,000 or more. The city of Emeryville obviously qualifies under the Alameda County size. Beginning July 1, all eligible legislative body meetings are required to include an opportunity for the public to attend remotely via a 2-way telephonic, phone, or 2-way audio-visual platform. The City Council will use Zoom webinar to meet this requirement. The Zoom link to the meeting, login information, and a telephone number for call-in participation is provided on each agenda, and as required, automatic captioning will be enabled during each meeting. As an eligible legislative body, the City Council is required to adopt a policy on disruption of telephonic or internet service at meetings. The policy must provide for recessing, reconvening, and the good faith efforts that were made to restore service. If there is a technological disruption, the City Council must recess until service is restored for at least 1 hour. If service is not restored after an hour, upon reconvening, the council may continue the meeting if it makes findings that continuing the meeting outweighs the public interest in remote access. I've attached a draft policy of the technology disruption policy to the staff report. and staff recommends that it be placed as Appendix A in the City Council's Rules of Procedure. We're recommending this rather than integrating it into the Rules of Procedure because it does have an expiration date of 2030 on it. And this policy will be included in the amended Rules of Procedure for adoption at the council meeting on June 2nd, 2026. Eligible legislative bodies are also required to translate and post meeting agendas in all applicable languages. Applicable languages means languages according to the data from the most recent American Community Survey, spoken jointly by 20% or more of the population, provided that 20% or more of the population that speaks the language in the city speaks English less than very well. Emeryville has no translation requirements under this provision. SB 707 also requires that the city create and maintain an accessible webpage dedicated to public meetings that includes or links to a general explanation of the public meeting process, an explanation of how to provide in-person or remote comment or written public comment, a calendar of all public meetings and their time, date, and location, and a link to the posted agendas. The City of Emeryville already has a prominent link to City Council agendas on its homepage. This page will be updated and renamed Public Information or Public Meeting Information, something close to that. And staff will add all the required information to the page prior to July 1. SB 707 requires that the city reasonably assist members of the public who wish to translate a meeting or receive interpretation, so long as it is not disruptive. Assistance may include arranging space for interpreters, allowing extra time for interpretation to occur, or allowing the use of personal equipment. There is no requirement to provide an interpreter at meetings. The City Council must also make reasonable efforts to encourage groups that don't traditionally participate in public meetings to attend these meetings. Possible groups include media serving non-English speakers, and good government, civil rights, civic engagement, neighborhood, and community organizations. The City Council has broad discretion over meeting outreach requirements, and staff encourages the council members to identify any group that they would like invited to meetings. Another requirement under SB 707 is that the council must provide a physical location that is accessible to the public near the location where agendas are posted for the posting of agenda translations by the public. The city is not responsible for the content, accuracy, or posting of translations, but staff recommends including a disclaimer regarding content on the board to avoid an unlimited public forum. Currently, the Emeryville Municipal Code identifies 3 posting locations for agendas in the city. These are at the Emeryville Senior Center, the Police Administration Building, and Fire Station number 2. Staff recommends amending the Emeryville Municipal Code, identifying 1 centralized posting location at the Civic Center. Public Works Director has identified a suitable location to install locked posting boards on the front of the building for all city council and advisory body agendas. An open public posting board would be installed next to the secured cabinet for public postings of agenda translations. SB 707 also allows regular remote participation by members for a category of advisory bodies, and they call them eligible subsidiary bodies. The definition of an eligible subsidiary body under SB 707 is one that serves exclusively in an advisory capacity, does not take final action, and does not have primary oversight for elections, budgets, police oversight, public libraries, or taxes. Additionally, elected officials who are members of an eligible subsidiary body may not appear remotely unless they follow traditional teleconferencing rules. And that would be posting your agenda, your address on the agenda. In Emeryville, this excludes the Planning Commission, Budget Advisory Committee, and all city council committees from teleconferencing. There are several other requirements that subsidiary bodies must follow to meet via teleconference. And they are as follows. Number one, a physical meeting location with at least one staff member must be open to the public. Two, the city council must make certain findings by majority vote that the eligible subsidiary body may meet by teleconference initially and then every 6 months. Three, the subsidiary body must approve the use of teleconferencing by majority vote. And four, members must use both audio and video technology to participate in the meetings unless they're excluded by an accommodation or a technological issue. Additionally, any eligible subsidiary body may request to present any recommendation it develops to the city council, and the city council must put the item on an action calendar in the next 60 days. While the item may be discussed, no action may occur until the item is heard at the next regular meeting. So staff is not recommending that the city council allow eligible subsidiary bodies to meet remotely for the following reasons. First one is staff safety. We'd have an open and public physical meeting location with at least one staff member as required for remote meetings. This potentially means that a single staff person is alone in an unlocked and unoccupied building in the evening, with the public entering to make public comment. It would also create inequity among advisory bodies, as some would be disqualified from meeting remotely because of their subject matter jurisdiction, budget advisory committee, or their member composition, council committees, who can only use traditional teleconferencing rules. The rules require that the city council consider subsidiary body recommendations on a strict timeline and in a very prescriptive manner. This takes flexibility away from the city council for agenda setting and gives more authority to subsidiary bodies. And the last reason is that at a poll that was done of the Alameda County city clerks earlier in the year, they indicated that no cities in Alameda County were planning to recommend that their eligible subsidiary bodies meet remotely. So that concludes the overview of the major provisions of SB 707. Staff is asking for direction on 2 items tonight, and one is the question of whether the council's in favor of allowing remote participation for eligible subsidiary bodies. And also, is a majority of the council in favor of amending the municipal code to provide for one centralized agenda posting location at the Civic Center? I'm going to come back to these questions, but I would like to just run through the next steps with the council really quick. If council approves the first reading, or approves that we can move forward with amending the Muni Code, we'll have the first reading of the ordinance regarding agenda posting locations at the May 19th City Council meeting. On June 2nd, we'll do the second reading of the ordinance, and we'll also present the amendment to the City Council Rules of Procedure. This will include the technology disruption policy the council must adopt as an action item as prescribed in the legislation. And then on July 7th, the new Brown Act rules go into effect. So that will be the first meeting we'll be having the two-way audio-visual public input. And then we'll also do an amendment to the advisory body rules of procedure. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any public comment on this item? You have a public comment? Or
questions?
yeah, I'll ask for a question. Are there any questions on this item? Councilmember Pryforce?
Madam Clerk, what is considered a group? I believe that was mentioned earlier. Yeah, in terms of groups being able to be formed, and it's like, is that something like has to be recognized by the city? Like, is there a 501c3? It has to be a corporate. Like, what is considered as group? Is that something like you just find out from the folks in Sacramento, or? I'm sorry. Okay.
Group as
Okay.
where in the,
I think it's like slide 3. I think it was slide 3. Yes.
Do you
Yeah, here
mean
it is. Here it is.
advisory
Yeah,
body?
five. Five. Here it is. Requires reasonable efforts to encourage groups that don't traditionally participate in public meetings to attend. I have no idea what that means.
So that's the exact language of the legislation.
Okay, God, Sacramento.
It is not defined in the legislation. That is exactly what it says.
Any other questions, council members? Councilmember Mora?
Going back to the direction page, so I I guess this is so eligible subsidiary bodies, is that the advisory bodies? And could you go back to the summary of the, uh, I guess, why the staff recommendation? Okay. Thank you, that's helpful.
Any other questions? Okay. I have a question. Please define advisory bodies that we have in our city. If you could name some so that the public can understand which those are.
Sure. Our advisory bodies are the BPAC, which is the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, EDAC, Economic Development Advisory Committee, Public Art Committee, Budget Advisory would not qualify under this, but it is another committee, and I'm blanking. We have 8 of them.
Senior Commission, is that the Commission on Aging would be considered an
Commission on
advisory body?
Aging is considered, yes, an advisory body.
All right. So, Housing Committee as well, thank you.
Housing and Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. So the intent behind this legislation was to try and get participation or get these bodies have recruitment. I think we've suffered from some of these bodies not having recruitment, especially the Commission on Aging, where remote participation would have encouraged some recruitment. Is there something that can be done in terms of maybe trying an alternative that would encourage remote participation on a pilot basis? Just try it with some bodies, and especially the ones that are suffering from recruitment shortfalls.
I don't believe we'd be able to pick and choose which bodies are allowed to meet remotely, but I'd need to confer with someone else on that. It would be an all-in or all-out. Now, there are rules around it. The body would have to, the subsidiary body would have to want to meet remotely also, and have to vote to do that.
Okay. Councilmember Mora.
I recall when we had some, I guess, is there a concern? I don't see it listed here, but where there's where there would be possible remote disruptions, where we had, possibly offensive or vulgar call-ins, and just the audiovisual setup at the advisory or at the non-council meetings could possibly not be able to handle those disruptions. Does that belong on this list, or is it kind of like a minor consideration but still worth being aware of?
So I believe that if council wants to go in that direction, we would need to find tighter restrictions around how those meetings are currently done. Because yes, you're correct. We do our meetings through a Zoom webinar, but it is a licensed product that the city has to pay for. The advisory bodies meet through Teams, which is less secure, or just the regular Zoom platform, which doesn't provide the protections that we have under this. There's no new rules or security around how people are excluded from meetings, but we would have to probably upgrade the advisory body meeting technology if we were going to allow them to meet remotely.
So the follow-up to that then is, just in terms of the audio-visual and logistics, would it be reasonable to say that there would be additional cost incurred by the city to roll out something like this? Because I think that would be an important consideration if there would be a dollar cost operationally related to this.
Yes, there would be.
Thank you.
Councilmember Pryforce.
So I believe in the presentation, it mentioned something related to that we would have to, because of disruption, we would have to create our own policy around that. And so is that something that we also can go back and forth with TAC and they kind of see what options are there in terms of software licenses, so maybe some best practices as it relates to how do we filter for those bad actors?
So the technology disruption policy is just for the city council.
Okay,
It applies only to the city council because you are the only eligible legislative body.
got it,
The
got it, okay,
committees are under subsidiary eligible bodies.
got it. Thank you for the clarification. In the presentation, it says something about elected officials can't be members of, and I believe it was 3 committees that I mentioned. And so, so when you say, so we can't be members, but we can attend?
So the only thing that I said about the elected officials is that they can't, they have to use traditional teleconferencing,
Okay,
which means that the address that you're participating from has to be printed on the agenda, and you have to allow public comment from that location.
got it,
So in the case of council committees, that's what would have to happen for them to be able to meet remotely.
Okay.
The 2 council members would print their address on the agenda and allow public comment from their meeting location.
that's what we already do, essentially, or what would be different?
Currently, the council committees require an in-person quorum of 2.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? Okay. All right. Seeing and hearing no further questions from my colleagues, I welcome public comment on this item. Okay. There are no public comments on this item. Any discussion? Council member, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
That's okay, thank you. Well, I'll start with the second one, second request. Seems reasonable to me. I don't have a particularly strong opinion on centralizing the agenda location. On the remote participation for eligible subsidiary bodies, I am before getting into the details, and maybe before SB 707 passed, I'm a big fan of allowing remote participation for our advisory bodies. It worked perfectly fine during the pandemic, and I see no reason it couldn't continue to work well. But I think that the way that the law is written and the requirements, both for for staff to be present here by themselves, and for requiring the actions of the subsidiary bodies to be agendized for city council, make it much less appealing for me. So I think given those constraints and given that no other city has seen fit to pursue that, I'm comfortable with staff's recommendation to not opt into that designation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other discussion, comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Pryforce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this was done to increase access, which I'm fully supportive of. I mean, remote participation, remote. I mean, it's the future. Heck, I think. Yeah, no, I use telehealth for my therapist, and so yeah, I mean, I think that's just where we're going, and I don't see any reasons to limit anything. So I'm just supportive of this. I'm cool.
Councilmember Mora.
So going back to the 2 points, I also don't think the second point is controversial. I'm in support of that. However, the remote participation for all the subsidiary bodies, I think while good in concept, it seems like this is a flawed and costly implementation that is, I think, unnecessarily onerous. And I think that's a good indication of that is the fact that no other cities within Alameda County have adopted this. So I'm prepared to, I'd be happy to make a motion to, are we looking for a motion or direction here?
I think that they are requests for council directions, so please, if you want to,
So I don't support the remote participation for all eligible subsidiary bodies.
in other words, are you okay with the recommended direction by the staff?
I support the staff recommendation, yes.
Okay, all right. Does the is there anyone who does not support the directions? Request for directions
The staff
that are made by the staff, recommendations made by the staff? Okay, I don't see anything, so staff, you have your direction, and so as we implement the significant change under SB 707, I think it's important that Emeryville continue to lead with transparency, accessibility, and thoughtful governance while ensuring procedures remain practical, equitable, and sustainable for staff and public alike. With that, I think that my only concern was if the agenda is posted at just the city hall, now it's posted 3 locations. It was the senior center that it may no longer be posted. Do they have access to internet?
So our plan, although we want to remove it from the municipal code as a designated posting location, our plan is to still provide the agenda in a large print format to the senior center that they put in a binder at the front. We will continue to do that. We just don't want it to be a designated posting location, and that way we don't have to provide a public translation posting location there also.
Thank you for clarifying that. Since slide 10 was about the procedure that you were going to follow, this with the public hearing to upgrade the ROP. Is that what slide 10 was?
Oh, sorry, the next steps? Yes, let me.
The next steps, yes. I just was curious because I think there's something that if we are updating the ROP, the rules of procedure, I think that we could potentially make another update to the way the agenda is posted.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So this is where I think that item 8 is posted in, it's the public comment for consent agenda, and it's items not on agenda. Since you're going to bring this up in next steps, I think this may be the appropriate time to make sure that we do call to order, roll call, and public comment on, because I think some members of the public would like to be here only for a certain period of time.
Mayor Carr, if I could just interrupt. What's on the agenda today is SB 707, and I think what April was proposing are changes to the rules of procedure to bring the rules of procedures updated with SB 707. If you're proposing other changes to the rules of procedure, you probably need to put that on as a separate agenda item at a future meeting to have a discussion and give direction to staff on that.
Okay, so you would prefer that to be a future agenda item?
Correct, if it doesn't pertain to the required changes for SB 707.
But it still pertains to the agenda. Changes to the agenda and rules of procedure.
My understanding, and April can correct me if I'm wrong, but she's proposing to bring forward changes to the rules of procedure in order to bring the rules of procedure into compliance with SB 707. I don't believe she was proposing to make other changes to the rules of procedure. If
I
you,
understand that. So what I'm trying to propose is that the item currently on public, on our agenda as public comment for consent agenda and items not an agenda is at item 8. And I think other councils in Alameda County as well as other regional bodies do call to order, roll call, and public comment, which is usually number 3. So, and I think that since this item is coming up on May 19th, which is our next meeting, I think that could be brought up at that same time where we could change the rules of procedure at the same time. But I can bring it up at our future agenda, as a future agenda item today, so we can maybe bring that
Correct.
up and streamline it on the same day as May 19th.
correct, to provide direction to staff that you
Yes.
also want them to bring forward changes to that as well.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, I think we can move forward with the direction as is. And I see we are all in agreement with that. So you have the direction you need for that?
I do, thank you.
Okay, thank you. In that case, the study session is adjourned at 7:14 p.m. And now I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of Emeryville at 7:14 p.m. And all members present for the study session are present here and should be noted for the roll. I invite a motion for approval of final agenda.
I'll move for approval of final agenda.
Second.
Motion made by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Welch. All in favor, actually, roll call, please.
Councilmember Mora,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Aye.
Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solomon,
Aye.
and Mayor Carr.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is the special orders of the day. Today we have 4 proclamations, and each of my colleagues have volunteered to read 1 proclamation each, and after that I can present it. So 4.1 is proclamation of the City Council of the City of Emeryville recognizing the 50th anniversary of National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, or NOBLE. And Chief Jennings, thank you for being here to accept that proclamation. Councilmember Pryforce, you're going to be reading this one.
Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust myself.
Yes, please be comfortable.
Okay, sorry about that, Chief. Let's see. Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Emeryville, recognizing the 50th anniversary of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE. Whereas the City of Emeryville is committed to recognizing organizations whose leadership and service strengthen our communities and advance justice, equity, and public trust. And whereas the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE, was founded in 1976 and for 50 years has served as a national leader in advancing professional law enforcement practices, leadership development, and positive police-community relationships. And whereas through advocacy, training, and collaboration, NOBLE has worked to enhance public safety, promote accountability, and strengthen justice between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve. Whereas at the regional and local levels, NOBLE chapters have played a vital role in addressing public safety challenges through partnerships with local enforcement agencies, elected officials, youth organizations, and community stakeholders, including leadership development initiatives, community forums, youth mentoring programs, and outreach activities that foster transparency, mutual respect, and sustainable community engagement. And whereas NOBLE's enduring commitment to the principles of service, integrity, equity, and justice is exemplified through its theme, 50 Years of Justice by Action, standing on noble legacy, leading with purpose. and will be celebrated May 14th to the 15th, 2026 in Emeryville. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Emeryville do hereby recognize and commend the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE, and the occasion of its 50th anniversary and celebrate its decades of service and lasting contributions to communities across the nation, proclaimed by the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Emeryville at a regular meeting held Tuesday, May 5th, 2026.
Thank you very much.
Do I go up there or is you? You wrong.
Yes, ma'am. Ready. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it very much. It was very nicely done. Nicely done.
Next, we have the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Emeryville recognizing May 2026 as Water Safety Month. This is going to be read by the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas May as Water Safety Month was established through a collaborative effort across the country to promote water safety and drowning prevention, and whereas education regarding the topic of water safety plays an essential role in the prevention of drowning and recreational water-related injuries among children and swimmers of all ages, and whereas the California Department of Public Health reports 3,631 fatal unintentional drowning cases in California over the 8-year period from 2016 to 2023. However, this figure excludes 350 fatal drowning incidents that occurred in California among non-state residents, and with data showing children ages 1 to 4 at the highest risk. And whereas Emeryville acknowledges the public significance of the California Water Safety Strategy, which highlights knowledge gaps, major priorities, and action areas where focus is required to reduce the burden of drowning across the state. And whereas Emeryville promotes drowning prevention by including swim lessons, pool safety, visitor safety, partnerships with community organizations, community education, and public awareness campaigns. And whereas Emeryville, the California Water Safety Strategy, and the community at large acknowledges that drowning is a complex issue and that progress in reducing the burden and occurrence of fatal and non-fatal drowning requires collaboration between different sectors and stakeholders with diverse perspectives and approaches. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Emeryville that the month of May is hereby recognized as Water Safety Month in the City of Emeryville, proclaimed by the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Emeryville at a regular meeting held Tuesday, May 5th, 2026.
Thank you, everybody, Mayor and Council. And I just want to introduce my team and my staff here. James, who is our recreation specialist overseeing aquatics. Cameron is one of our lifeguards. Guillermo Navarro, our recreation supervisor overseeing the ECCL, and Steven, lifeguard. And we would like to invite everyone to the ECCL pool this Saturday, May 9th for Water Safety Day. It's from noon to 3, free admission, free swimming, workshops, and collaborations with Alameda County Fire and East Bay Regional Park District. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Next, we have the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Emeryville recognizing May 14th, 2026 as Bike to Wherever Day.
Whereas,
This is going to be read by my honorable colleague, David Morrow.
thank you, Mayor. Whereas the city of Emeryville supports the use of bicycles as a healthy and sustainable mode of transportation, and the city continues to improve and extend its network of bike lanes, bike boulevards, and multi-use paths, and increasing bicycling benefits all citizens of Emeryville by improving air quality, reducing traffic congestion, noise, decreasing the use of and dependence upon finite energy resources, and promoting exercise. Bike to Wherever Day is the largest annual celebration of bicycling in the Bay Area, and the city has regularly supported Bike to Wherever Day, formerly known as Bike to Work Day, since 1998. Now, therefore, it be by the City Council and the City of Emeryville that May 14th, 2026 is recognized as Bike to Wherever Day in the City of Emeryville, proclaimed by the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Emeryville at a regular meeting held Tuesday, May 5th, 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you on the behalf of BPAC and all cyclists in Emeryville. We appreciate your continued support.
Thank you.
Next is the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Emeryville recognizing May 3 through 9, 2026 as Public Service Recognition Week. This proclamation will be read by Council Member the Honorable Courtney Welsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Emeryville recognizing May 3rd through the 9th, 2026 as Public Service Recognition Week. Whereas Public Service Recognition Week is May 3rd through the 9th, 2026, and honors the people who serve our nation as federal, state, county, local, and tribal government employees. And whereas since 1985, Public Service Recognition Week is a time to set aside to honor the folks who serve. And whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. And whereas public servants provide essential services that promote the health, safety, and well-being of our community. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize the accomplishments and contribution of public employees and to express appreciation for their service and dedication, now there be resolved by the City Council of the City of Emeryville that May 3rd through the 9th, 2026 is hereby recognized as Public Service Recognition Week in the City of Emeryville, and the City of Emeryville commends the dedication and professionalism of all city and government employees who deliver essential services to the community, proclaimed by the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Emeryville at a regular meeting held Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Look at all of these public servants.
Thank you, my honorable colleagues, for helping me with those proclamations. And thank you so much. We are very grateful to our city staff for being here to receive those. Any comments by any of my council members on any of those proclamations? Okay, then we'll move on to public. Oh, I'm sorry, please, Council Member Pryforce.
I just want to thank and recognize Chief Jennings for all of his service to Emeryville, and I believe that noble coming to Emeryville and knowing that our public safety leadership is headed by a really significant man, a black man, and someone who is a role model for many of our youth. So I just want to recognize Chief Jennings.
Any other comments by my colleagues? All right. Chief Jennings and everyone in this room, I thank you all for the service that you do for our city. Very grateful and very appreciative that so many of you are here. And Ryan, I know you are a public employee as well, so thank you. All right, with that, we are going to move on to council members' special announcements, reports on meeting agenda. Any council member special announcements or reports on meeting agenda, meeting attendance? Seeing none, we're going to city manager's report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. There's no city manager report this evening.
Thank you, city manager. Next, we are going to ex parte communications. Any ex parte communications, colleagues? None. Next, we are going to public comment for a consent agenda and items not on agenda. Any members of the public? Welcome, Ryan.
You'll probably guess what I'm here to talk about. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Ryan Lau from AC Transit, here to talk about some critical updates for the future of our service. On Wednesday, June 10th, 5 p.m., AC Transit Board of Directors will be considering reducing service due to significant budget shortfalls. While the state loan has stabilized our budget for this coming fiscal year, AC Transit is still looking at a $200 million deficit over the next 4 years. So without new sustainable revenue, we're looking at the possibility of a service reduction of up to 16% and a job loss of 300 jobs. AC Transit has been looking at worst-case scenarios, and if new funding is not secured, we could experience service reductions starting in June 2027. I want to be clear that there haven't been any specific proposals for line reductions, but we are looking at across the service area where we may have to make those hard decisions. And so while it's our, it's our priority to preserve the current service levels, we just want to be really transparent about the challenges that we're facing at the moment. So again, AC Transit Board of Directors will be considering service reductions Wednesday, June 10th at 5 p.m. Immediately prior to that meeting, we'll be hosting an open house for the public to be able to review all those potential changes. It will be at 1600 Franklin, as well as online participation through Zoom, online, and by phone. And we will be sharing additional details as those develop, and we hope that you will share that with your communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, we have the consent calendar. Council Member Mora.
I'd like to request that we pull item 9.4 for discussion.
All right. Is there a motion to move the consent calendar without item 9.4?
I second that motion.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Motion made by Vice Mayor, seconded by Council Member Pryforce. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mora,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Aye.
Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solomon,
Aye.
and Mayor Carr.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to 9.4, which is the resolution of the City Council of the City of Emeryville authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the City of Berkeley to provide animal control services in an amount not to exceed $167,948 for fiscal year 2026 through 2027, $172,987 for year 27 through 28, and $178,177 for fiscal year 2028. This item is now open for discussion. Council colleagues. Council Member Mora.
I just had a few basic questions about this. I mean, it seems like a fairly routine contract where I know we don't do in-house animal control. And we probably don't, I think many of us probably don't know too much about the animal control needs of the city. So I was hoping to ask staff if we could get a sense of the quantity and types of calls that we're getting for this type of service. That's the first question. You know, like, is this like roadkill or like, you know, rabid wombats or something? Like, I just have no idea. And then the other aspect is also just the financial due diligence on this. You know, what are our options? You know, are there companies out there providing this service? Did we shop around? You know, seems like we spoke with other cities, other neighboring cities. But given that Berkeley is you know, raising their rates, I think it would be prudent to just make sure that we were getting the best value for this contract.
Okay, Chief Jennings here to answer those questions. Thank you for the nice noble thing, and then now the grilling. I like the combo, it's just setting me up. But really the quantity, we average over 115 animals, mostly dogs. Dogs being 55 animals a year, cats being around 37 animals a year, birds, and then other animals could be we had whales, we've had sea otters and stuff like that. So over 115 animals a year. There's several factors that came into the cost. What happened historically? What happened was there was a consortium of us, Albany, Piedmont working together. Piedmont lost their employee to Berkeley. Piedmont folded. We went into business with. We all went to scrambling to get help. We did our due diligence and asking anyone in the region who would take contracts. Of course, we go to Alameda Sheriff's Department first, declined, went to Oakland, declined, went to Hayward, declined. As we maybe do not know, but there's 3 entities that run, that mandate us to have animal control. And with the help of our learned attorney, John Kennedy, he found the one leg that I didn't have, was the reason why it's unfunded and is mandated by the state. Because it was a rabies and animal and vicious animal quarantine throughout the state, 58 counties. So we're mandated to have it, and it was unfunded. So that was back in the day. After that, when we contracted, it was going well, but only certain entities wanted to do it. And after it came down to where Berkeley was the last place in our area in the county that had animal control, we contracted with them. And then, due to the cost, several things that they did to factor out the cost, so they felt that they were subsidizing us, Albany, Piedmont, to carry the cost, so they increased their cost to cover their costs. And that was ended up being about a 16 to 50% increase. It was a significant increase. And they factored in how many animals that we bring to their shelter, factored in the fact that vets' costs have went up, factored in that they've had long-term stays of animals, factored in that the care and feeding of these animals, the long term, ended up being longer because of the downturn in the economy. People were turning in these animals and not coming back and getting them, and so they were held with the fees, and so they're passing those fees back on to us, the consumers, and they're the only ones in town.
Thank you for that explanation. I think that's very helpful for understanding the background of this requirement and how we ended up sourcing with Berkeley. Just out of curiosity, are we, as a follow-up, given how much overlap we have with Berkeley and Oakland is even more, I'm curious, where does Oakland get their animal services? Are they in-house or from the county?
Oakland has their in-house, and they weren't taking on any clients. The Sheriff's Department also in-house, not taking on any clients. Hayward took on part of Piedmont's. We tried to get on board with that, but they weren't taking anyone else on. So basically, Berkeley has us, Albany themselves, and they say that they're overwhelmed with the amount of animals that they have. And so, I know it's a lot. We were shocked. That's why we did our due diligence. We're shopping around and trying to figure out what we could do. But again, Berkeley knew that they're the only entity that they had that we could go to unless we start our own. Piedmont did part of that, where they bought a freezer and they're having their officers dispatch animals. They still have to contract out with Hayward. That's why we try to get on with Hayward. But again, that's not a logistically feasible spot for us because we have way more business than Piedmont does. Piedmont normally deals with roadkill, where we're dealing with vicious animals relatively often. Example would be our March issue where we had 3 rabid dogs bit 3 citizens. One of my officers is still out more than 2 months later. Attacked a 7-year-old and a grandmother. That took up all the resources that we had for probably most of the day to handle that one particular animal. And those animals were kept in storage at the kennel in Berkeley for over a month. And then there was a bunch of administrative part. That's the other leg of it, is the food and agricultural aspect of how we administratively handle that, which we do in-house to mitigate some of the costs. If we would have not do the administrative part, our costs would have been more in Berkeley, and they didn't want to do that. So we have our own hearings, do our own summons, do our own court hearings, and we've been to court on that case twice since then. So there's a lot of pieces involved in this.
I see.
And I understand it's
Yeah,
expensive. We were shocked too.
Thank you, Chief. It's helpful. I'm edified knowing it's not just a guy with a net and a pickup truck, right? There's a lot more that goes into this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, colleagues? There are no other questions. Oh, Councilmember Pryforce.
Thank you, Chief. So when it comes to data or reporting from the Berkeley Animal Shelter, are they collecting that kind of data and reporting that to us in terms of, because we're having this conversation around better management of, as it relates to our municipal code with pets and how bad it has gotten in Emeryville because of that incident and other incidents. And so, and it would help for staff to be able to gain that kind of data.
So Berkeley that's how they base their new rates, is based on the data of how many animals that they had to respond to, how many they kenneled. They times that times $250 as an average stay for an animal, and that's how they came up with the number over the period of time. We did the numbers were close. They weren't perfectly accurate because I don't think they were counting birds, and we shouldn't be taking birds there. Birds are not part of our animal control contract, but it was still close, and it wasn't really refutable.
Thanks, Chief. Any other questions, council members? Vice Mayor? No? All right, there are no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? Seeing and hearing none, is there any discussion or motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion made by Council Member David Mora, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Please call roll.
Councilmember Mora,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Aye.
Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solomon,
Aye.
and Mayor Carr.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have public hearings. There are none. Action item, which is the recommended state legislative positions. Welcome, Nicolo.
Honorable Mayor and council members, Nicolo DeLuca, Townsend Public Affairs. Good to see you all. I want to be respectful of your time because I know you all have been here for a while. So it's that time of year where we come and recommend legislative positions. We have a memo and then a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is just to help with more broad overview. Where we stand right now is, first of all, it's a really cool picture of your city hall. I was kind of proud of that. Where we stand right now, and then April, if you don't mind going to the next slide, is both houses. So bills are now out of their fiscal and policy committee hearings. They're heading to the appropriations committee. And then after that, the full floor. The city's had a rich history of weighing in on bills that are part of our ledge platform and that we care about. And so that's sort of the summary of what we have going on today. It's actually an overview of 18 key state bills. It's my fault, that was a bad keystroke. So the attached memo goes into greater detail. And like I mentioned, this is the first phase of recommended positions. After that, more phases will be coming. Next slide, please. So in this phase, we've highlighted some bills for public safety, immigration, housing, economic development, and the arts. Again, all topics that are within your adopted legislative platform. Future phases will be local government, transportation, and climate resiliency. There's also the overlay of bills from our Senator Emeryville, and our Assemblywoman Bonta, partially because it fits within our platform, but also it's a way of continuing to support them because they've been so good to work with. Next slide, please. So on the housing side, as you will see, we've got a handful of bills. The first two are about the housing bond. Both bonds are $10 billion. They recommend different pots, but as negotiations move forward, there's going to be some from the Senate bill will go to the Assembly bill. And then in addition, the next following bills, AB 2020, AB 2146, and AB 2626, are about ways to help finance housing, specifically affordable housing. And then as a tip of the cap to RENA and some of those regulations, we have AB 2296 from Assemblywoman Pappen. Again, the memo here provides greater detail. I don't want to bore you all, but happy to answer questions as we go through the bills. The next slide, please. And then public safety. This is a really interesting year this year where there have been a handful of bills to address illegal dumping, which might not always impact the city directly, but it sure as heck impacts some of your neighbors. And it's a visual cleanliness issue. Assemblywoman Bonta has got a bill, 1153. I was actually working with her staff today, and that bill seeks to get funding through CalRecycle to address abandoned RVs and abandoned vehicles. Also then at the bottom of the slide is Senator Emeryville's bill on illegal dumping citations, where if you have been cited for illegal dumping and you choose not to pay your citation, they could hold your registration until you pay up. Then we have Assemblywoman Wicks's 1743 on firearm tracing transparency. She's always been really good about working with the Brady Coalition to address gun safety and the proliferation of handguns. So that bill's within that bucket. And then Assemblywoman Wilson, who's the chair of the Assembly Transportation Committee, someone I love to work with, she's got a bill on e-bike safety regulations. That's another big trend this year. And right now, I'm most comfortable recommending support for that bill because a lot of the other bills will take shape. Next slide, please. And then immigration has been a big topic. Assemblymember Gabriel has his bill 1807 about not allowing state property for immigration enforcement. And then Senator Emeryville has his bill 1257 on immigration enforcement reporting. Next slide, please. And then finally, no, not finally, homelessness, a handful of bills here. AB 1734 was recently added. That's about food pantries, the Counter Hunger Act. I know that there was an overture from a community group to the city on that, definitely worthwhile to support. AB 1924 from Assemblymember Gabriel, really forcing the state to have a more clear homeless strategy. We're proud of him for pushing on that. 1969 from Assemblywoman Bonta is a community services grant program to help community groups. And then Ms. Bonta also has her shelter bed reporting. And as obviously you'll see from all those bills, we have our recommended positions. Next slide, please. So final slide, and then two pieces of legislation. The last one, AB 2319 from Assemblymember Schultz, is post-production tax credits. The city has had a good history of supporting the arts, and the post-production tax credits is good for the film industry, which is strong in the region, which we're recommending support. And then really deferring to the city council on AB 2231, the bill from Assemblymember Aarons, which has to do with Sutter Hospital and CEQA streamlining. We're recommending a watch. However, you all are a lot closer to what's happening locally on that. I will like to say, I'm pretty sure the city of Santa Clara is discussing this bill today, and also just more of a pet peeve of mine. I've heard people say before, oh, CEQA exemption, CEQA exemption. The state of California does not give CEQA exemptions. What they do allow is CEQA streamlining. You all are familiar with this. This was a bill Senator Arreguín tried last year, which essentially says if the applicant takes certain steps, then they're allowed the CEQA streamlining, which really means that if there is a legal challenge, you have 270 days to resolve that challenge. Next slide, please. And then here's just a really easy commercial for my awesome teammates. Proud of all of them for all the work that they do. So with that said, happy to answer any questions, get into any bills, and the process is once you all give me direction, I work with the city manager and her team. We draft letters for the mayor, and then we immediately share those with the author, with our delegation, committee consultants, governor's office, and others. So thank you.
Thank you, Nicolo. Colleagues, any questions for Nicolo? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple, just clarifications. So AB 2296 from Papen, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly, planning and zoning, the RENA timelines, it
Yes.
seemed somewhat innocuous. No, important, but not controversial. But I saw that there are a couple groups that were opposing it in a previous form. Did it used to say something much different?
Yeah, so Assemblywoman Pappen has been focused on really giving cities great authority on their arena timeline, because as you know, if you miss your timeline, HCD drops the hammer. And she initially put out the proposal that was really more influenced by kind of the perspective of the League of California Cities. She has made some amendments. She's committed to making more amendments, but some of the opposition that you see was from YIMBY, CBIA, and others. But that was on her initial version, but their opposition is still there until their amendments are out and they change their position formally.
I see, thank
So
you.
basically, she's working with the opposition to get them to come off of it.
I see, okay, thank you. And then you mentioned on AB 2346, the e-bikes from Assemblymember Wilson. You mentioned that you were recommending support on that one. I know there's a variety of other bills being discussed. Can you describe a little bit more why you're suggesting
this
that bill and not some of the others?
Absolutely. Part of my role that I see is to keep you all from getting into trouble. And getting into trouble could be supporting bad pieces of legislation. Next thing you know, you've got a lot of people showing up at public comment and you're like, what the heck just happened? So we do know that there's a desire to address e-bike safety. What's not clear is what does that look like? Horsepower, speed, who can really buy it? Where can you ride it? How do you enforce it? Who enforces it? I don't think anyone wants a visual of a 13-year-old kid being pulled over by the police because he or she might be on the sidewalk, but at the same time, sidewalks are for pedestrians. And so the reason why we're most comfortable with Assemblywoman Wilson's bill is because as chair of transportation, it's like kind of like her policy area. And we suspect come June and July and August, when session gets close to an end, for all the bills that are remaining, she's going to kind of bring them all together and use what's the most effective and what's probably not. I will say one other point about the e-bike safety is newer groups are getting involved in e-bike safety, not just pet advocates or municipalities. We're seeing more from groups like as the California Medical Association, just due to the head trauma that they're seeing in the operating rooms and the age of those that are really being impacted. So to answer your question, kind of in a nutshell, Assemblywoman Wilson, we're the most comfortable with her ability to bring everyone together, and she really has the strongest policy right now.
Okay, thank you. And then one final one. On the housing bills, I know that Assemblymember Wicks introduced a bill on the condo defect laws.
Yes.
I guess, can you share a little bit about how that's looking and what you think, if you think that could be an interesting option for us, given our interest in homeownership options for new development.
Absolutely. Happy to bring that back in round two. Essentially, the history is, I want to say it's like 2008 or 2009. I feel that some of the city team might know the exact date. A law was put into place to go after condo construction and the defects. There's been a chilling effect from that legislation to really keep people from building condos. Certainly, condos are a great path to homeownership. Obviously, you all have had a great track record of multi-unit buildings. And so what Ms. Wicks is trying to do is really absolve some of those concerns and work with both sides, the attorneys on the defect side and then the homeownership groups. Still a little early. Right now, it's going to take greater shape. I feel once it takes better shape, I think that would be something to bring to you all for a position recommended support.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any questions, colleagues? Any other questions? Councilman Pryforce?
I have a question, and thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you. I have a question around housing, and if we've taken a look at AB 1165, AB 11, and AB 2094. I believe AB 11 is about creating some sort of housing authority around social housing, and 2094 is about, I think, is like creating a position around social housing, and then Housing Justice Act, which is about creating a statewide housing finance plan and funding structure to develop, preserve, and stabilize affordable and supportive housing, wink, wink, including for extremely low income and very low income households.
I was going to let you also know in your honor, I did not put any Senator Wiener bills on this list. So for those three bills, I know the one about the statewide financing, I want to see get out of appropriations first before we bring anything to you all. The state budget is apparently getting better, but I don't know about a bill doing any new statewide funding. The other two, happy to do a deeper dive, but what we did was we looked at the bills that are out there, we looked at your ledge platform, we looked at what was more in line with what you all typically have supported. So that's one of the reasons why those aren't on there. However, I'm happy to take a second look.
Let's see. I believe it's the Wicks. I believe it's the Wicks bill. Wicks.
The housing bond one?
Yeah. Does it make any allusions to sort of skipping on how much of that funding can go towards unions?
Is there a PLA? No, this is just straight money.
Okay.
So, and it beefs up programs like MHP program, multi-housing program, the Cerna farm working housing program. So essentially it's a bigger cash infusion for existing statewide programs where cities and affordable housing developers could apply for the actual construction.
Oh, okay, thank you. Just to mention, I remember a while back, Councilmember Welsh mentioned mattress dumping.
Yes.
So we actually do have a little bit of dumping happening, especially on Overland. We have a couple of things happening, and so it's starting to build in Emeryville, and so very supportive. I believe Supervisor Miley gathers a couple of electives around that.
Yes, I've heard the supervisor just recently did a larger working group. He's been very consistent on his disdain of dumping. Just yesterday, I was in a discussion with proponents against the dumping bill, saying it was too harsh. And I respectfully said, I mean, people are dumping. They're not going to the dump. They're dumping in front of people's neighborhoods or low-income communities. It's like one of the more offensive things you could do. So hopefully the city takes a position of support so we can add you to the list of pushing to go after dumpers.
Gotcha. And why are we supporting CalCare? Is that AB 1900?
I did not add childcare.
Oh, CalCare, sorry.
CalCare?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Say more, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's CalCare, which is the statewide initiative around I believe it's kind of a Medicare for all thing
Oh.
that the California Nurses Association have been
I
supporting.
mean, I could add it to the next iteration. Traditionally, you all haven't really weighed in on the Medicare, healthcare side, but happy to add it to the next iteration of bills.
So in terms of our history, like, another kudos to Councilmember Welsh, because Councilmember Welsh was responding to one of our residents, Eugene Sway, and Sui, sorry, who talked about mental health, and so CalCare would sort of be that umbrella for mental health. And then since we don't really have any mental health services in Emeryville, I think that would be
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Happy to add that to phase 2.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? Okay. I have one. Did I miss the SB 954 by Blake Spear, or can we add it to the next one? It's another
I will
CEQA.
definitely add that one.
It's another CEQA one, so I just wanted to see if we need to watch it or.
What I can do, I'll definitely watch it. Very aware of the bill. Happy to provide direct updates.
I would very
and
much
then
like
come
to see.
back and put
Thank
it on
you.
the list.
Thank you. Any others questions? All right, public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. There's another question. Councilmember Pryforce.
Yes, I don't think we really do focus a lot on employment and vocational stuff. Yeah, so because with supportive housing are like opportunities for our populations to go into things. And I know that buildings and trade, I think it's SB 550 has been knocking on at least my door about apprenticeships. They're very big on apprenticeships, and that's something that they have been focusing on a lot. And so, yeah, so looking at a couple of the vocation bills is something that, because we're such a leader in housing, and then we say that we're a leader in affordable housing, then those who are in affordable housing need jobs. And so it's a very sort of working class perspective. So.
Cool.
Any other questions, colleagues? Right, seeing no questions at this time, I'm inviting public comment on this item. Seeing and hearing no public comment on this item, any discussion amongst the colleagues, or are we able to accept the report? Councilmember Mora.
Thank you, Nicolo. I appreciate you compiling this legislative readout that to me looks consistent with the council direction that we've previously provided. But also, I do appreciate the other consideration that you mentioned where, these are kind of somewhat mature bills. They're not half-baked, right? So that way we're not spending our effort and political capital supporting things that don't really stand a practical chance. So that being said, I do support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councilmember Mora. Is there anything further from you, Councilmember Pryforce?
Yeah, so we're kind of dealing with a situation where there's a back and forth between our city, the county, and Chocolate Mama Cookies. And, this discussion about whether she's allowed to cook this or cook that. And it's just a whole lot with her customers and that sort of thing. But there's actually a state bill, SB, no, it's AB 2315. I'm sorry, it's one of my church mothers. AB 2315, which is micro enterprise home kitchens. And I'll read this. This is a low barrier entrepreneurship bill. It helps home-based cooks, immigrant entrepreneurs, women, and working class families turn skill into income without needing a full commercial kitchen on day one. And so it's just a particular interest, especially as I'm thinking a lot around uh, using your homes as opportunities for businesses. Since commercial real estate is falling apart, people can't afford to be in any of our buildings because we designed them um, for a what was it biotech, and now we're not using them. Then they're empty, and they're not, you know. So it's just people are uh, introducing enterprises in their homes more than ever, virtual sales, those sort of things. Even when you look at our tax structure in Emeryville, a lot of it is home-based businesses like attorneys and childcare and that sort of thing. And so the opportunity for home kitchens and people who can cook and provide those to the community is something that I'm really interested in. And I wonder if my colleagues are open to that being a sort of a part of our vision, a legislative vision.
Is that a question for Nicolo or the colleagues during the discussions? Okay, colleagues, do you have anything, any input in there? Vice Mayor?
I'll just say, I mean, I'm not hugely familiar with the bill, so would be interested in getting more information. But, you know, either today or in the next phase, but
Perfect.
if that's,
I could treat that like the Blakespeare bill. Just send you a write-up, let you know where it's at.
I
amendments,
appreciate that.
stuff like that.
Thank you so much. And with that, I think I'm going to call the question is the action item is to accept the report. Yes, please go ahead.
yeah, thank you. And I'm happy to make a motion at the end. I think agreed with Councilmember Mora. You know, I think this, as always, appreciate your expertise in sharing with us sort of how things are working and what not to touch, as well as what to endorse. I think my one concern, I guess, is AB 2346, the electric bicycles and speed limits. Not because I think some of the bills that have been proposed are, from my layperson perspective, bad policy and not, you know, will produce bad outcomes. I think these are fine. From my, you know, I think that I have some questions around the focus, I guess, on, I think what problem we're trying to solve. And I think if the problem we're trying to solve is people are complaining to legislators about e-bikes, then this is a reasonable set of solutions. But I don't think it's actually going to create safer outcomes, because the issue is bikes that are going far too, you know, e-bikes that are going far too fast, and aren't really e-bikes as they're classified under state law. Not to mention that, you know, I think we are in discussion to add a speed limit to our bike lane, to our bike trail. But I think that given that jurisdictions are so porous, you know, you could be going one speed limit in one jurisdiction and then all of a sudden hit another speed limit and the police decide to pull you over. Or you have no option, but, you know, when I'm in Oakland, sometimes the street isn't safe for me to ride on, so I need to go on the sidewalk for a second. So I don't think it's, I respect Assemblymember Wilson's effort, and I don't mean to besmirch that, but I don't feel like it's solving the e-bike, e-moto issue. So my personal preference would be to maybe watch it or, you know, get more information and see where things go, if my colleagues are amenable to that.
Which one is this, Vice Mayor?
AB 2346 by Wilson on electric bicycles and speed limits.
I saw another one on Wilson, but before I go ahead and make a comment, I'm going to defer to my colleagues. Councilmember Mora?
I just had one. So I one thing I did like about this one, I think it had the speedometers on e-bikes. I do think I ride e-bikes. I often don't know how fast I'm going. It would be helpful to know, and since that's not a default piece of equipment, it would be interesting to see that integrated. But one part about this one that I actually do find puzzling, and I'm not sure if it actually solves the problem that it's trying to solve, is um, I guess by allowing local jurisdictions to have their local speed limits, because I do know that we are already discussing that in Emeryville. So I'm actually kind of curious. I don't know if staff has looked into this at all, but if we are discussing this in Emeryville, are we allowed to even have speed limits on bike paths, or do we need legislation like this to, I guess, give us that option? If we don't, do we already not have that option? Maybe I'm a little confused about where we are on this.
I think part of it, if I may, Madam Mayor, to the council member, I think part of it is making it clear if you do or you don't. One other suggestion, depending on where you all end up, we could also just do a comment letter without a position. That's not frowned upon. It's not always what people want. We used to make comments, though I will say if we make comments and they address the comments, the comment protocols then to support the bill.
I see. And one thing I'm actually wondering is whether we address the main problem, which is these basically electric motorcycles masquerading as e-bikes or calling themselves e-bikes, and then getting to use multi-use paths and kind of sometimes terrorizing everybody on that path, including other bicyclists and pedestrians. So I'd be interested to know if there's something that, maybe in that comment letter, could we, push towards the actual safety concern that I think Vice Mayor and I are expressing. And yeah, whether that means changing to from a recommend to a watch, that along with this comment letter, I could support that. But I'd want to check to see if we have a majority on the council besides myself and Vice Mayor Solomon before making that change. And I think Member Pryforce, I saw.
Yeah, I also feel the same way. I think it's just sort of, I'd like to update just our vision as in terms of legislation. I know that a lot of the legislation for years was sort of under Botter's sort of vision, right? Like these sort of priorities. And I'd like us to focus a whole lot more on working class, or at least include working class initiatives. Like I said, the vocational training, there's a couple of bills around that. And one of the things about this particular bill that I'm concerned about is how would it impact, kind of like the whole retail theft thing, was like, how does it impact the working class? Like, how does it impact those who are struggling to use their e-bikes for like Uber or like Uber Eats, like DoorDash, that sort of thing. People just trying to get to work, especially young people who are just using their bikes as cargo bikes, that's going from place to place. So I'm really concerned that there isn't really an equity focus on this bill. So I agree with your recommendation that we kind of just watch it and see where it goes. But overall, I'd like for us to start thinking about, because it's bad that, and I think I told a couple of folks at the Working Families Party that we need to really consider even focusing on working families, because it's gotten so bad people are not having families. And so it says the working class are really struggling right now and just choosing not to get married or children. And so I think anything that supports where we're at right now as a society, in terms of our economic woes, I'd like that to be a little bit more sort of inclusive in terms of our legislative vision. Do my colleagues disagree?
Councilmember Welch?
So regarding the specific bill with the e-bikes, I'm not a cyclist, but I do serve with people who are. And so I trust your judgment on moving forward with moving that to a watch and sending a comment letter. As far as the other comments, I believe that all of us as working people, we're in a room filled with working people. I always think that is in the spirit. Emeryville's always been a very working class city. And I think Nicolo can speak to that as Townsend has historically represented us. We have always very much been focused on working people, especially in more recent years, having regular working class folks who are very in tune and aware of a lot of the woes that working parents, single parents, people taking care of elders are going through. So I think that amongst the five of us, we have a very strong representation of various demographics and family arrangements and economic situations. And I think that is very well reflected in the legislation that we support moving forward.
Councilmember Pryforce.
Respectfully, Councilman Welsh, I disagree that being here for 4 years, we haven't been focusing on working class issues. And the thing is that working class, like we're all workers, but let's be real. Like we belong to a political class, right? They belong to a certain class. But in terms of like people who are living on $20K or $30K a year, those who definitely need CalFresh, I mean, that's a whole different population. Okay, let me give you an example, right? Did we even mention it's SB 1222, which is Inclusive Career Technical Education Pathways Pilot Program. AB 2324, Vocational Education for Youth Caregivers. SB 61, Fair Pay for Contractors. Or SB 781, Small Business Procurement Participation, right? Like I have seen us not really focus on that. We haven't focused on those who need jobs. And so, I think that, you've said it before that our values are reflected on our budget. Well, our values are also reflected in our legislative vision. And I think that we need to do better. And, when we send Townsend folk out that they are advocating for a real working class agenda to come out of Emeryville. And when I mean working class, I'm not talking about people who are at that income bracket of 100K and up.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes, you may, Councilmember Welch.
So respectfully, I'm not going to get into personal attacks about what people don't do and who they are and their background. But again, Emeryville has always had working class people, and these people, as you refer to them, our city employees have various levels of economic access. The people who come here and work here every day to support us is different. If you want Nicolo, I know you're available, correct?
Sure.
If we want to sit down and have more in-depth conversations, Nicolo and his team are available for us to do that. He comes here because there are things as the council, we're on limited time. You can also make specific recommendations, how you did right now, and no one's arguing against you. But to make it seem as if we're purposely ignoring people, I think is completely unfair and a misrepresentation of who we work with. All of us are employed outside of here. So if you're gonna make an attack on what the council hasn't done, you have the opportunity. You said you've been here for 4 years. Have you made the opportunity to speak with Nicolo or his team saying we can bring this forth? Because we can bring this forth and have a conversation. No one is going to try to fight against you on bringing other types of legislation forward, but to say we're ignoring them, I feel like that's a miscategorization of what we're actually doing here and what the purpose of this is tonight. This is high level, and we don't have to argue about it. This is a high level overview of just historic bills. We can add to it, but saying we're ignoring it, that is absolutely not true, and that is not fair. And it doesn't represent what we all do, what all of us do, including you, what we do outside of the council, individually and as a group, and the city. So if we want to add to it, we can add to it, but don't say, oh, we've been only focusing on this and we're refusing. It's not a refusal. We can bring in new ideas. We can focus on other types of legislation. Then let's just say that. but trying to say we're not focusing and we don't care, and what about the people who are deeply, extremely low income, extremely low income? We're not fighting against those people at all. We're not fighting against them. And it doesn't have to be a debate, and I know you're raising your hand, it doesn't have to be a debate. And they're saying we're a part of a political class. We're elected by the people, as you say all the time. That can change. Everyone has the availability to run for office. Saying that, making it seem like we're some type of elite, because that word gets thrown around a lot here. We're elite and we're this and that. Everybody clocks in and goes to work. Everyone went to work today, right? I know I did. We are a part of the working class. So to say that we're against the group that we're a part of is completely unfair and wildly inappropriate for you to say that.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and, is there any other comment or Councilmember Pryforce?
So I find that very interesting from one of my colleagues that loves to insult people as on their social media, and come from that sort of black elitist position. So if we looked, like when Townsend gave us the presentation and we looked at the first couple of slides, there was no recommendation around working class positions. And what I'm saying is that when we think about what our legislative vision is, and if you're saying I've been here for 4 years, and well, for 3 of those years, we had a particular type of mindset. And so we represent now, I think, the first year where we've really had, I think, a different scope of what kind of legislative leadership we can provide to the city, that here is an opportunity for us to add something, which is what I proposed and what I shared, which is to add something that leans towards a more working class vision. And then I'll leave all of the theatrics to you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask that call the question. We are going to accept recommended state legislative positions with the amendment on the e-bikes, which I believe is 2346 by Wilson.
Correct.
Is that
2346.
changing from support to
watch.
2346 changing from support to watch
With a comment letter.
with a comment letter? All right, and then next round you're going to provide some additional updates. Councilmember Pryforce, offline, if you want Nicolo to bring other bills, please ask the city manager to coordinate it with Nicolo for the bills that you want to hear about.
I will move approval of the recommended position with the amendment to AB 2346.
Thank you. And is there?
I will second.
Thank you, Councilmember Welch. Motion by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Welch. Please take roll.
Councilmember Mora,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Aye.
Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solomon,
Aye.
and Mayor Carr.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Nicolo.
very much. I'll be working with the city manager on next steps, and everyone have a good evening, and thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have department head reports. Are there any announcement of commission committee vacancies?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to let you know that our our annual advisory body recruitment closed last Friday. We received over 50 applications. It was a banner group. I'd like to thank staff for reaching out to current and former advisory body members and to their constituent groups to get those applications in. So what happens next is those committee applications will go to the council committees. Transportation and sustainability is first. They're doing BPAC, and that's followed by budget and governance on May 21st. And then at the end of the month, community services will look at Commission on Aging and the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Clerk. One question I had from a community member is they have asked if they need to show up for these.
Just like at the council meetings, they are not required to show up. They are given the option to do that.
Thank you.
I'd like to. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have, was there anything about Community Development Director's Report 12.2?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and members of the City Council. This is my report on Planning Commission actions taken at their April 23rd, 2026 meeting. There were 6 of 7 members of the commission were present, with Member Martinez absent. The commission reviewed and approved a tree removal permit for the removal of 1 tree at 1264 Ocean Avenue, including a requirement that a replacement tree be planted. The vote was 5-0, with Commissioner Maya Small recused from that item. The commission also reviewed proposed changes to the planning regulations and general plan to implement Housing Element Program LL. The commission unanimously recommended the City Council adopt the ordinance that will make these changes, and this item will be presented to the City Council at your May 19th meeting for first reading. This concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Any questions on 12.2? Colleagues, there are no questions on 12.2. Next is the future agenda item request. Any requests from my colleagues? Councilmember Pryforce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, I'd like to propose that we consider the Pledge of Allegiance to return to our council chambers for discussion, which I will demonstrate.
Is there any support for this item? Seeing no support for this item fails. Any other future agenda item requests? All right, I have one, and that one is to move the public comment from item 8 to item 3 after roll call, so that the members of the public can go ahead and do that. And this, since this item is coming up at the next session, I would prefer that it be considered at that time.
Mayor
Is
Carr,
there
if I could
support?
just ask for clarification. So is this for public comment on items not on the agenda? It's just general public comment?
Just general public comment.
So you would have general public comment, and then you would have, later on, under 8, you would still have public comment on items on the consent calendar. So you would be essentially making 2 agenda items for public comment.
What, previously we had multiple public comments, and that's how other agencies that I sit on do that. And now that we have, the goal for me, I don't think the goal for any of us here is to limit public comment, which has been the complaint, so to speak, from the public, or that they are not getting their public comment. But we can put the public comment for consent agenda and items not an agenda, exactly what is section 8 in 3.
I think the problem with that is you would have the consent agenda still later on in the agenda. So you would still have, you would have a number of other items that the council would discuss. If you're taking public comment on consent item agendas, you would have that as number 3, and then you would have a number of other items before the council would actually discuss the consent agenda.
All right, what can we do to alleviate that? Can we put the consent calendar back up there?
That's a call for the council to decide where you want the consent calendar. What I understand your goal is to have general public comment under number 3. You would add that under number 3, and then you would have public comment on the consent calendar still remaining on number 8.
I don't necessarily want to do that. What I would propose is just keep it streamlined, and what I'm proposing is to have After roll call, item 3B, the public comment for consent agenda and items not on agenda, and then move the consent calendar back up if we need to, so that the public is not here waiting for all the other items to finish before there is a public comment, or we can,
That's a policy call for
Yeah.
the council to decide.
and
Point
this
of
is
clarification.
point of clarification by Councilmember Mora.
When you refer to, so right now, public comment for consent agenda and items not on the agenda is currently placed immediately before the consent calendar. By moving it up, it seems like take this meeting, for example, if it was moved up, really the only substantive thing that it would proceed would have been the special orders of the day. Is that your understanding and your goal? So the public comment would come before special orders of the day?
Yes, that is how it is done at AVA and at other regional bodies, or that's what I've seen other city calendars. Public comment is respected and put at item 3, usually after roll call. So items not on agenda are placed there, and after that is consent calendar and then special orders of the day can come after approval of final agenda. So what I'm proposing is item 1 be called to order, 2 be roll call, and 3 be public comment for consent agenda and items not on agenda, and the next thing can be the consent calendar, or
The only thing I
approval of agenda and consent calendar.
The only other comment I'd make is you'd probably want to approve your agenda before you start taking public comment and
Yes.
approving items on the agenda.
I did mention that just now. I did say that, or we should have the approval of final agenda and then the item 8. So it would be done like that. So 1 would be call to order, 2 would be roll call, and the 3 would be public comment, or it could be approval of final agenda.
I
and
would
then
say you would
public
want to
comment.
have approval of the final agenda before you start taking public comment and approving the consent
Yes.
agenda.
Thank you. And then, so that's, I think I would take that recommendation. I think that would address a lot of the comments that we've had about this item being pushed much lower, so that the public has to stay in the city hall for more time than they have. So that's the reason why I think I would like to push it back up where it is usually done by other agencies. And I'm asking if there is support for this item.
Can I ask one other question just about the timing of this this item? I don't see it as necessarily time critical or related to the upcoming items. So is there a reason why this
The
needs to
only
happen so
reason I am
quickly?
doing that is because it's relatively easy to do, relatively easy to change in the rules of procedure, and we are changing the rules of procedure with a public hearing on the 19th, so it can relatively easily be streamlined in that, and this can take place around the same time where we are amending the other rules of procedures. Yes, Madam Clerk.
Comment, Mayor. So this item could come back on May 19th. We are not updating the rules of procedure until the June 2nd meeting. So if you wanted to have a discussion about this item, we can bring it back on the 19th, decide whether you'd like it included in the updated rules of procedure, which is mostly around SB 707. And at that point, can make the decision as to whether the council wants to include it or not. So there isn't a rush because it isn't coming back at the very next meeting. It's coming back at the meeting, the following meeting, the first meeting in June.
In that case, that is absolutely fine as long as the rules of procedures, you don't have to do them twice. What I'm trying to streamline it for the staff so that they don't have to go ahead and revisit it and do it twice or look at it again and take up time to do that.
And then also, just to be clear, another clarification, the agenda would not be modified on the 19th or reordered. We would be discussing whether or not we wanted to reorder it for the subsequent meetings, right?
Correct.
Okay, I support that.
Councilmember Pryforce, do you have a point of clarification, or is
Yes,
that
it's a point that, because I'm not doing the Brown Act violation, so I just have a point of clarification. So when in the staff, when the staff reviews it, would it be looking at sort of our sister brother cities around in terms of comparison when it comes to what they're doing and what we're doing? Because Mayor Carr said certain agencies have done the same thing, and I'm more concerned about like those in Alameda County, Contra Costa, and that sort of thing.
If you'd like to include that in the direction to staff to bring the item back, or happy to do that.
If you're asking me for what I'm specifically asking, I don't necessarily need for you to look at other bodies. I'm just doing this for the convenience of our public to have them make their public comment early on. So I'm doing it just for that reason that I'm bringing this item up. I don't necessarily want to impact more work to get data from other cities, because we can pull that up ourselves and see what. But if that's something that you would rather like to see, that's absolutely fine. We can have that done as well. Yes, Councilmember Pryforce seems that he would like to look at the data from other cities. So is there majority support for this item to come back before we amend the rules of procedure for SB 707? All right, thank you for the support. We have majority support for that. And with that, it is now 8:34 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.